to the first North Perth Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting for 2021 and officially call this meeting to order at, I have 3:33 just changed. We have heard that we do have regrets from Tanya Haverkamp, and again, we'll wait for Trevor and Martin to jump on at any time. Moving on to item 2, are there any additions for today's agenda besides the NPED AC priorities and recommendations that I have already received? You have to help me out, Jess, if you see any hands come up. Okay, seeing none, we will be discussing this at item 7.1, and I'll be moving COVID-19 impacts on business to 8.1. Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Andrew, second by Leanne. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to item 3. At this time, I'll remind everyone that if you do have any pecuniary interest to declare, please do so now or any time throughout the meeting. Seeing nothing declared at this time. Item number 4. Moving on to item number 4 on our agenda. Has everyone reviewed the minutes from November 25th, 2020 meeting? Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve them. Moved by who? Moved by Andrew, second by Becca. Comments or questions? All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. I see we have a call-in user. Is that Martin or Trevor by chance?
It's actually Todd.
It's Todd. Okay. All right. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, moving on our agenda to point number 5. I would like to invite Kim Couch to give us an update on North Perth economic development. Go ahead, Kim.
Thank you, Doug. So I'm just going to add a little bit of additional detail to the items that I've supplied. I tried to supply as much information on the background on the different items. By all means, if you have questions as I'm going through, just to clarify the items, feel free to ask. The first item I want to mention is the Facade Improvement Program and Commercial Building Guidelines. So using the provincially funded North Perth Community Improvement Plan, or the CIP, you'll hear that terminology often, is that that CIP is used to incent improvements in a variety of ways. And so our CIP touches on a number of different areas, including affordable housing, and it does also include facade improvement. So this project is focusing on incenting beautification of our downtown areas in North Perth, with a goal of helping to improve the quality of place with workforce retention and attraction and economic recovery. I mean, the timing of this is actually going to benefit our COVID recovery for our downtown. So that's, you can see that having a benefit as well. So in most communities, so we have launched the public engagement. I did share the links, so you were aware, to the community surveys as well as to the business surveys, just so you can see and we're aware of that happening. The research that Lee Barrett, who is the CIP planner, who has been hired and funded under the project by OMAFRA, it's our current RED funded program. he's done some research on best practices across the province, Canada, and in the US for facade improvement programs and different commercial building guidelines. And so generally, the facade improvement programs are grants or loans. He has found to date that the bulk of the findings have demonstrated that communities have been successful in using grants versus loans. And some that may have initially thought they were going to offer loans have maybe started using loans and have stopped because of some of the complexity with legal agreements and that. So that's one thing I just want to bring to your attention as well, that it's often 50% cost up to a maximum of common amount would be $10,000 to $15,000 total. So that's something we're going to be researching. And once the engagement is complete, one of the next phases will be taking the recommendations back to council. We will be just reaching out to other stakeholders in the project. And once that project the guidelines are approved by council, then and it is budgeted for, that is definitely part of the consideration under the budget process still underway, is the amount that would be eligible under the project. So I also wanted to let you know about the pre-apprenticeship training. So this pre-apprenticeship training, it is pre-apprenticeship training and not actual apprenticeship training. So the goal is to help support our employers, give them access to learners, expose learners or workers to the trade, to working in different trades in general machining, metal fabrication, and welding, which are priorities definitely in North Perth. And also to demonstrate down the road, potentially, if we do have enough employer interest and worker interest, that this may help to justify future apprenticeship programs or other things. So just wanted to give a little background on that one. The public Wi-Fi plan, we did take it to council on Monday evening. The preliminary costs for all phases for the project across Listowel, Atwood, and Moncton were shared. We are still awaiting the outcome of a full report from our consultants, but the cost that has the initial projections, which will increase if further investigation was done. So the initial costs are $500,000 for Listowel and $100,000 for Atwood and Moncton. And so at this point, council, we did hear a lot of good, clear comments from council that at this point they did not support further pursuit of the program, and that they would like to see more support and investment going into rural connectivity at this time versus further investment in downtown and public space Wi-Fi. We had also followed that because RED, Rural Economic Development funding with OMAFRA, has opened up. Applications are due February 1st. They also, council also directed not to submit an application for RED for this project in Atwood and Moncton. So we are not going to be submitting a new RED project this round. We have one existing RED project, the facade improvement project that we're working on right now, as well as the county is going to be submitting other projects, have already been approved for a couple of projects that are on hold because of COVID. So we will be supporting them in that. And just wanted to give you an update because I really didn't have an answer when I prepared the report. So the business, we can maybe talk about a little bit further about the COVID business response, and maybe I can talk briefly to that later at that part in the agenda. But we have been, recognizing the difficult times that businesses are experiencing right now, and are trying to do a variety of different things to help support business to meet their needs and to understand better what their what their concerns, what their needs are, trying to get information out to them with new funding or other information as it comes. So I'll talk to that a little bit further later. And finally, I think I want to mention about the Driftscape app launch. So we are working on that. Our target is to have that launched the beginning of March. And if you have any ideas for landmarks, tours, or experiences to promote, if you could definitely bring them to my or to Jessica's attention. We'll be compiling that, uploading it into the app with the goal of finding ways to better promote the different things to do and sites to see and activities initially from a couch surfing standpoint, but then as people are able to explore a bit more within the municipality. And that's all for me. Does anybody has any questions or like clarification? Okay.
Thank you for your report, Kim. Anyone joining us on the meeting have any comments or questions for Kim or her report? Scrolling across, I see none. Again, thank you very much, Kim. Oh, sorry, we do have Andrew has a question. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sorry, Doug. Yeah, just one question, Kim, around the, I guess, the facade improvement program. It's obviously a new program for me. I don't know all the finer details of it. Is it something that has been historically offered in North Perth? Has there been much uptake in the past?
Yeah, no, we have not had a program historically. It has been in our CIP, so it is eligible by the province for us to have one. There has not been one in North Perth in the past. There has been in other communities surrounding North Perth and in other communities across Ontario. This is the first time we've had the Facade program in North Perth. So we're excited to have that opportunity and want to make sure that the program is designed and set up in a way that will help support businesses across North Perth, within Listowel, but also Moncton and Atwood to help improve the and beautify our downtowns. And generally, these programs tend to really be contagious. So it tends to encourage other businesses to improve their facades, and it covers off a lot of different things. Like it could be, signage, it could be windows. It's a variety of things, and that will be. We're still in the development stages of what would actually be covered and how the program will be laid out. So yeah, that's a good question. It is definitely new to North Perth.
Sounds great. Obviously, one of the first things that you notice when you drive through any town or village is the front signage, and certainly an indication to me of community health.
Exactly. And we know that some of our businesses, storefronts, need a little bit of support. So this is a great way, and we're really hopeful that council will support the funding. The RED program supports hiring the staff member to develop the guidelines as well as the program and to implement the program for 1 year. But the funding that goes to the businesses themselves is not eligible funding from RED. So because it's money going directly to the businesses or cover or sharing costs with the businesses. So that's something that council will have to approve from the budget. So that's what we proposed. And I think I said 80,000, it's actually 75,000. It's common for programs like this to be about $7,500 as the max if it's a 50%, or that's some of the research that we've seen. So we thought if 10 businesses did the max, then that would be a great start. People may not ask for that much, yeah. So that's just how we came up with the 75,000.
That answer your question, Andrew? Great. Thanks for your comments. Leanne, you like to speak?
Hi, thanks through you, Chair Doug. Just directed to Kim. Just wondering if in the promoting of North Perth, I know you talked about, landmarks and that kind of thing. What about the trail? Is the trail going to be something that would be promoted? It does go through a number of our communities, and given the new wave of people doing more walking and exercise, especially with the pandemic as a way to get out, it could be something that could be promoted. Is that something that you'd had already included?
Yes, trails are definitely going to be an area that we're focusing on as well. We're thinking about some of the farm gate and other tourism destinations that we have in the community. But yeah, definitely trails. We know, especially right now, and we can change what we promote through the app. So, like the different trails that we've got, the G2G, as well as the North Perth Trail, and photos along the way. We'll also be, recognizing the counties, how they have that set up, but we'll be using that within the app definitely, because I know that that's one of our most used recreation amenities, and people are definitely looking for more ways to get outside.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else, Jess? Okay, good. Todd, being as I can't see you anytime, because I don't have my chat line up here, just speak up at any time, please. Thank you. Moving on to, and again, thanks, Kim. Moving on to item 6. We now have Sarah Franklin. Now, I believe there's only 2 on this line that haven't met Sarah because she wasn't at the last meeting, and that would be Becca and Andrew. Sarah, Becca represents our commercial identity, and Andrew represents our industry identity. Becca and Andrew, Sarah, she's our Perth County Economic Development Communications Officer, and she's here to give us an update on behalf of the county. Thank you. Go ahead, Sarah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Doug. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Okay. Happy New Year, everyone, and hello to the members that I hadn't met quite yet. I know you met my colleague Justin Diaz at the last meeting, so I'm just going to take you through a few of the items in our update report this time around. By all means, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and ask anytime. So the first thing I want to highlight, partly because of the tight deadline on it, is these tourism business support grants that have just recently become available. This is a partnership through our regional tourism organization. We're part of RTO4. The province is split into a variety of different RTO regions, so we are in RTO4. And there's an allotment of money available for 2 different streams of funding. The first is really funding toward health and safety protocols, and the second is for technology adaptation. So we're trying to promote this out to our business community so people can take advantage of this funding. If they visit our website at perthcounty.ca/businessgrants, they'll be able to pull up all the information. There's an application guide, as well as how to make your application on there. And certainly if any businesses have any questions, they're welcome to reach out to us at any time, and we'd be happy to help. The second update is around our PC Connect transit service. So service still continues to operate, although we're encouraging that ridership only be for essential purposes at this time. Maggie, our transit coordinator, she is keeping on top of the numbers and has reported that since November 16th, they've had 234 rides on the system, which is pretty good uptake, particularly given the pandemic. They are focusing on a number of different marketing measures for the future, but right now she's mentioned that she's kind of dialing that back a little bit because of the current stay-at-home orders, although people are still able to make use of the service for essential trips only at this time. The next item is our digital service squad. This was a program we were able to apply for funding through Digital Main Street. And we were able to hire Clara Alini, who's been working one-on-one with local businesses throughout Perth County. She's really available for that one-on-one support to help businesses get their items online through e-commerce, set up websites, or also offer some social media coaching. And Clara is with our team until the end of February, so we're again encouraging businesses to take advantage of her services to book an appointment. She's obviously meeting with folks virtually at the moment, but she's able to set up meetings sort of outside of normal business hours if that's better for you, but we're just continuing to promote her services while we still have her on board. But there's been great uptake amongst the business community, and they've really appreciated her ability to coach them one-on-one about their social media and digital offerings. The next section I just want to touch on. Prior to Christmas, our team undertook a number of business check-in telephone calls, and the goal with this was really to just speak voice to voice with our business community and try to understand sort of how things are going. You know, having been through the pandemic for some time now and understanding there is an amount of survey exhaustion out there, we were mindful of that and really just wanted to reach out with a personal phone call to a variety of businesses. So we made a point of touching base with businesses across the county in a variety of different sectors, variety of different sizes, as well as both well-established businesses and perhaps some that are a little newer. So we really kind of tried to take the pulse and temperature of how things are going for the business community. So I won't go through everything that's kind of summarized in that report, but a few things I did want to touch on that I made note of is there, with some large businesses, there was a concern of, you know, case spread within the community. Obviously, businesses were very diligent and cognizant of putting in protocols, whether they were in manufacturing, making sure their teams are adhering to all of the protocols, and in some cases above and beyond the provincial recommendations. Another item that came out was the real benefit of the government supports that have been available, and that has really helped as a lifeline in many cases to help get businesses through this difficult time. One item that came out as well, which shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone, is that local accommodators have been some of the hardest hit, obviously without hockey tournaments, tourism, not flowing quite the same way as it normally would. Accommodators have really found it a challenge to continue business in this time. They've really seen a significant hit to their business. That said, though, many businesses did speak to an increase in local support, seeing new customers either through their doors or purchasing online for curbside pickup or drop off for local delivery, which was encouraging to see. Perhaps some may have sourced these items at larger stores in larger centers and traveled outside the region, but there really was a sense that in many cases the local community has come out and supported many businesses. One item that was interesting as well was that there was a real appreciation for PPE. I know one of the initiatives we had back in 2020 was to drop off some, we called them Perth County Care Kits at a lot of our local businesses to offer some kickstart of hand sanitizer, masks, very common PPE that was necessary. And that was cited as something that was appreciated, but also still needed. Businesses are continuing to have to source these items, and that was something that they appreciated as part of the programming. And last item, I think I just made note of it again, just as a highlight. The Ontario Business Support Grant Program is open for the business community to take advantage of, and we're trying to do our part to help promote it as well, making sure that local businesses who have not yet received funding apply to the program to help them through this current stay-at-home order and help them with their business costs at this time. So that's sort of all I have at the moment for our quick update, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the report or otherwise. I'm available.
Thank you, Sarah. My chat line function, is open, so if you have any questions or comments, you can reply through there or put your hand up if you want at this time. you see any, Jess?
Doug, if I could jump in.
Sure, go ahead.
I think one of the concerns that's starting to emerge, two of them actually. One concern is with regards to the fact that manufacturing continues unabated, and there are many people who think that that's a mixed message. And I'm not quite sure how we deal with that because that's a provincial decision. But certainly it's complicating the communications around the stay-at-home message. I think it's been acknowledged by the province that they are struggling with how to send the full scale of messages about how serious stay-at-home is. I will say that I just attended a call with Minister Clark and Minister McLeod, who urged mayors to support a new provincial campaign, which is rolling out on Friday, pertaining to stay-at-home. And so there's going to be a fair amount of media and stories told over the next several weeks to try to keep people at home. And I think employers will have to consider how that works out for them. Certainly there'll be some challenges. I think the other matter that I just want to raise is that I have, and I'm sure Doug and Leanne, you probably have as well, heard from several small businesses who are indicating that they're about to sink. And, where the new monies, perhaps from the province that have been available, is coming later than they had hoped. I think it opened last week for the 10,000 plus 10,000 opportunity grant. But many of them are in pretty dire straits. So, we're already seeing near casualties, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more. I don't know if the county has any thoughts on other relief or direct measures to try to preserve some of these businesses, but they're starting to yell.
Yes, certainly. Thank you for the question, Todd. Just to address your first point on the manufacturing, I know just anecdotally myself speaking to several manufacturers over the phone as part of our business check-in calls now. Granted, this was prior to Christmas, so things have obviously shifted quite quickly. I know many employers were very aware of the position they were in for continuing to operate at this time. Many manufacturers and food processors spoke to me about, again, taking those above and beyond measures and really being concerned that, that one case can shut down an entire production line conceivably if there was exposure on the line. So I definitely hear what you're saying about the mixed messaging component, and obviously there's been some reasoning around the continuation of manufacturing as deemed as an essential service. I do know that the local employers I spoke to are very, very aware of the fine line and how careful they need to be with their workforce, working in close proximity, in some cases on different lines. To your second question about the small business challenges, obviously, yes, it's. I know again from kind of the phone calls that I had, many businesses were thankful for the local support. However, we're very concerned about the very fact that we could go into a second lockdown, and it turned out that's what ended up happening. So, we are continuing to strategize at the county about potential things that we can do in terms of promotion. I know one of our strong components during the first lockdown was a lot of marketing efforts. It is a bit challenging with the situation changing quite rapidly and wanting to be mindful of the stay-at-home orders. But you're right, there are definitely businesses that are struggling at this time, given there is a second lockdown. And, we're all ears in terms of ideas, and I think we will continue to do what we can to promote what supports are available if they haven't already been accessed.
That answers question, Todd?
Yes, thank you. We will continue as we hear about them to refer them to all good sources, and that will include your office, Sarah, if that's okay.
Absolutely, please do. I mean, we are trying our best to certainly be aware of specific circumstances as much as we're able. I mentioned accommodators particularly struggling during this time, but by all means, passing those concerns along to us are welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Just one thing, when you mentioned, you spoke briefly about the transportation Perth County run, and that obviously with the lockdown, we want only essential to run. Are we still running all runs, or are we, doing every other day, or are we thinking of closing any at this time?
It's my understanding that the service will continue as is. I have not heard any information about the service structure changing or reducing service at this time. I'm not sure. I would have to speak to Maggie to find out if that's even under consideration at this point. But I believe for essential trips, because there are people using it for employment as well as medical appointments and things like that, my understanding is that the service will remain in full force at this time.
Thank you.
So I could just add to that a little bit, Doug, just because I sit on the CIO's committee for the project. So we did have a lot of discussion around what to do right now, but as Sarah said, there are a lot of people, this is their only means of transportation right now, so we are cognizant of that aspect. So we are really trying to promote it for those who need it, should use it. We've been fairly satisfied that the number of people using it is making it viable. We have continued the 50% discount, though, I believe until the end of March, as of right now, just because certainly it's not a really good time to get a really good handle on the fares with everything that's going on. So and I know even Stratford has launched the Stratford to London route because we had to get that on the road. So actually, in some ways, the service is even expanding, and we are actually even converting our Listville to Kitchener route more to a workforce time period to help people trying to get to our industrial sites for the beginning of the day shift.
Thanks, Chris. That answered my questions. Last call for comments or questions for Sarah. Leanne, go ahead.
Hi, Sarah. Through you, Doug. Thank you so much for giving us these updates. My question for you is, as a county and even through Kim, do you offer businesses assistance with getting this grant? Just in terms of, formulating applications or processing that kind of format to seek this kind of funding? And my other question is just about, do you know how long it takes to get this type of funding? Last time the government provided support, it was a good 6 weeks before people saw the funding. And in many cases, these businesses can't wait 6 weeks. They are just, getting by on a thread. They have rents that are due, other bills that are due, utilities, snow removal. It's quite a concern. So I just wondered, A, if your departments can support businesses if they need it to put an application together, and B, if you know what the timing might be for them applying. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. We have in the past supported business applications for various grants, not to this particular program, because obviously it's newer, but certainly if a business, because I certainly understand that grants and things like that are sort of a world we live in economic development and quite a lot more than many businesses do. So certainly we'd be happy to review, or if they have any questions about the program that we can't answer directly, we would refer them to our partners working in a variety of ministries that would be able to answer maybe more specifics for them. So yes, I guess as a simple answer, we would help in any way we could. We'd rather see them get the dollars in. Now, obviously, the business would have to ultimately do the final submission and we aren't able to create and generate the applications for them, but we would be happy to review and offer advice. I would say that. Timing wise, that's a great question. I'm not sure. I have not heard, unless Kim has anything to add, I haven't heard anything about turnaround times on this particular program, but that's something I can definitely look into. I heard the same thing that you mentioned, Leanne, about the delay in receiving the funds. I do know that the provincial and federal government have been quite open to hearing feedback. So I would hope that they have made the necessary adjustments to move this program forward a lot quicker, but I haven't heard a guaranteed turnaround time in terms of dollars right into bank accounts.
I know that based just on the provincial website, on the page where the applications get submitted, it actually stated a time frame and it said 10 days. So I thought for them to actually say that, I mean, it may not be exactly 10 days, but it'll probably be close. And that's certainly better than what was experienced before. So I was encouraged by the fact that they gave a turnaround time and gave that information up front to businesses as they apply. And it's pretty clear on the website itself, and I did email that to all of our businesses, the links for applying and what information specifically they need to have. So so the turnaround time looks more promising this time, based on what's on the provincial website.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps that's something that I don't know if we're open to this, but just letting businesses know that if they need support in terms of putting paperwork together, that perhaps to reach out. I have to tell you, I'm very, very worried about many of our businesses, our service industries, like your little hairdressers, your nail salons. They don't sound significant, but they do provide significant service to our community. And, they could easily fall off the map if they're not, getting the funding they need and the support they need. So just a thought about anything we can do to support them with that type of, seeking that funding for sure. Thank you.
Okay, seeing nothing in the chat or no hands, but I do see Trevor. Have you just joined the meeting recently?
Yeah, so it was interesting actually listening to what Leanne just said, because I just spent the last 45 minutes with Canadian government. It's a disaster trying to get through this stuff right now.
Okay, well, welcome. Thanks for jumping in when you can. Just to, if you have your agenda there, we just finished up on item number 6, obviously with Sarah. We had an amendment to the agenda. It's number 7, which is coming up right next. And then we're moving number 7 to number 8. So moving on to item 7 that was added to our agenda, the NPEDAC priorities and recommendations. And I believe CAO Snell is speaking to this. Chris?
Thanks, Doug. So in reviewing the minutes from the last meeting and certainly preparing for this meeting, the committee did a great job of identifying areas of priority. As we all know, like labor attraction, local training, and youth and attainable housing were just some of the topics discussed last time. Certainly, I think the intent of council and the former Economic Development Committee was to seek input from our community leaders to see how we could move forward some of these very difficult priority areas. And I'll certainly leave this up to how Chairman Doug wants to structure the next meeting, but we really, if you have great ideas or recommendations, we really need them to come out of this committee so we can forward that on to council. So if, I'm just gonna use an example of attainable housing. If this committee really has a great idea of North Perth getting into an attainable housing project or something along that lines, we'd really like to structure this committee so that can be the idea can be discussed, vetted, staff could go away, do some research on it, but yet we could present these up a line to council so they could put resources behind it so we can move some of these topics forward in the future. Certainly, as you've heard from both Kim and Sarah, both the county and the municipality are doing some things around these topics, and we've we've tried to do our best, but we're really looking to the community leaders for some ideas and new thoughts injected into some of these difficult conversations. So that's really what I wanted to do today, and I'll probably have further conversations with Chairperson Doug to see how we can structure sort of moving these along at the next couple meetings.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone out there like to comment or have a question for Chris, or just want to give it some thought for next meeting? Leanne? No?
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Doug. I think, you know, in terms of projects, I'm just going to pound at this again. It is absolutely critical that we continue to support as a council and as a community the implementation of better Wi-Fi, better internet resources throughout our community, and more especially in our rural areas. That is a massive project. It's going to be costly. And it's something that we are living with it today, right? We have people on this meeting that are struggling with getting in to conduct meetings. And we have a stay-at-home order that's, you know, on for a significant amount of time. And we are wanting citizens to stay home and to be safe. And it's so hard to conduct business when we don't have the tools to do that. And this is just an incredible, important tool that we need in order to conduct business in, you know, from now and here to come. So I want to just continue to pound down on that point. And I made that clear at the last council meeting, is that, you know, public Wi-Fi, we may not be investing in that this time, but can we not put some of those dollars towards helping out with some other kinds of projects in terms of rural connectivity and other kinds of business connectivity, in my mind? And to me, that's a project. It needs a massive amount of investment. And I feel very strongly about that for the health of business in this community. So I certainly want to put that forward as a project for, to me, it's economic development. Without this type of tool, we cannot conduct business that very well. So that's how strongly I feel about it. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Leanne. And I think, just to reiterate, that was very strongly suggested and a lot of impact at Monday night's meeting, but I thank you for bringing that up. If there are no other, is there any? Yes, go ahead, Todd. Yep.
Well, I think, you know, that the CEO's recommendation is useful. The interesting question is, are we at the point now where we have already identified the priorities? Is what we talked about at our last meeting sort of the starting place for the priorities in this committee? Or do we owe it to ourselves the next meeting to have a sort of brainstorming session about all of the things that can impact economic development, whether there are things that we can do or whether there are barriers that we need to bust down, and use that output from that brainstorming to create a sense of priority for the committee. I think we should probably think about that today. I will comment briefly, if you don't mind, because Leanne has raised the issue. SWIFT will be completing their assessment of Perth County proposals for rural broadband by the end of January. I'm not sure if that's broad public knowledge, but Perth County projects come up to their procurement advisory committee this month. And so we will be hearing some announcements shortly after that about projects in Perth County. I think, I'm going to be honest, it won't likely be proportional to the size of the municipality. It could very well be that it will relate to need and current proportion of premises served that will sort of target some of those projects. That's just a speculation on my part, so please don't hold me to it. But I think it is imperative to understand the scope of the North Perth broadband internet gap. And, you know, it has been estimated now that it will take a total of $24 million to completely cover every premise in North Perth with fiber to the door. That estimate, if you use the SWIFT model, includes investment by the internet service providers of at least a third of the total investment cost. And so when you start to do the backwards math, you realize that essentially, if we were looking locally to fund this project, we have a project of $15–16 million ahead of us to get that 1/3 contribution from the ISPs. It's also really important, and I don't want to belabor this, but it's important to understand that ISPs choose the lowest hanging fruit. That is, that when they're looking at the business models for them, when there's a density of 2.7 homes per kilometer, they're not in a hurry to jump at that. But when they see small villages or hamlets, or even, a stretch of road with, 12 or 15 homes on it, they will go there. And so what we will see likely from the SWIFT project and from ICON projects, which have also been applied for, is coverage of our smaller hamlets that haven't been done yet, which is like Donegal, Britain, Molesworth. These are the kinds of communities that are sort of next up because there's enough density there. We will never see a business model that will be attractive to an ISP to do it themselves, take fiber down every rural line. And that's why it's going to take investment from and a partnership from government to make this happen. So for those who have hitched hopes that perhaps the ISPs will get around to it, I'm going to dash those hopes quite firmly. When you look at the cost per kilometer of fiber, they would never recover that back from build fees to customers. And that's why this is such a big issue across all of Ontario and in fact across much of Canada. So I think we're going to see some progress on that file in the next couple months in terms of announcements. I'm looking forward to hearing them, but there's still work to do. And the question is, does this community wish its local government to be involved in the funding that is necessary to get the job done? Because SWIFT funding represents anywhere between 10 and 25% of the total need. So we're still going to have 75% of our unserviced premises unserviced after the SWIFT project.
Thanks, Todd. Well said. And again, Leanne, well said also. We have had some great ideas, and as Chris said, we'll likely do a brainstorm at the next meeting. But that being said, that's not for 2 months. So in between, anything that comes up anytime, don't hesitate to send off an email or give one of us a call so you do not forget it. But this is a very high priority, absolutely, and we want to move forward with it. Chris, do you have anything else to add?
No, I certainly sort of agree with Mayor Todd's sort of outline, is that we probably will go back and look at the topics that the committee discussed at their first meeting, and just so Councillor Andreessen is aware, I already added number 5 being broadband, because I know it's a hot topic. I think that's a good starting point, but that's not to say they're the only starting points. But I think we'd want to prioritize those objectives and then look at how we can advance those through different projects, or what kind of resources are going to need it in specific areas so we can advance them. Because I think that's where, as staff, we have to take the council to get the necessary resources put around some of these projects so we can move them forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Any other comments? Seeing none and nothing in the chat line. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 8. Item number 8 is COVID-19 impacts on business. Kim, who's taken that on lead?
Sorry. So, I mean, I can start off with that one. And I think we were hoping just to have a conversation from the local business leaders on their impressions and on impacts. And just, I alluded to it in our earlier conversation, but the mayor and I and the BIA and Chamber have met a couple of times talking about different initiatives and that we can do to continue to support COVID recovery. We are sharing funding, so funding information and different ways that we can help to support our businesses. So a couple of things that are upcoming, still in earlier stages of discussion, is that the Chamber is going to be leading a Facebook networking type of group that's going to be, it's going to be a private group where different businesses can join and get resources and talk to other businesses. So perhaps, getting sources for things and how to address challenges and to mentor each other. And so that, there's more things down the pipe for that as well. But that's something that has been raised with the COVID recovery groups as well, or that had been mentioned. So we're hopeful that will help the small businesses and all different sizes of businesses. And we may we know that some businesses are very hesitant to share concerns and issues publicly, especially with competitors. So we're going to try and have a way for them to ask questions anonymously and potentially have leaders in the community talk about those things, have videos, and address questions anonymously. Because that, we've been hearing, the business community is quiet. They're not saying a whole lot, and we do tend to find that's the case. In many situations, let alone right now in the pandemic. But we want to find different ways to ensure that people are getting information, and sometimes hearing it from and through their peers is a good option. So that's one thing that we're working on, and we're, as a municipality, trying to support that in however we can. The BIA is going to take on further developing or kind of expanding upon the idea of taking the pledge that was launched at the county on tourism, finding a way to have people increasingly want to support shopping local. And so finding ways to incent them and to encourage them to do that, and also encourage them to give testimonials of local businesses, what types of things. I think it was mentioned at the last meeting, like giving examples of what they've bought at different businesses and help to make that really grow. So that's still in earlier stages, but within the next 2 to 3 weeks, you could see a lot of movement on both of those areas as well. We're continuing to promote our Shop Local in North Perth this winter program. That will be just going out with our different business directories and the restaurant directory and Shop Local North Perth, getting that out to businesses just to continue to promote that. And we are also looking at gathering more data. It's been September. I can't believe it's been that long, but the last time we asked businesses for information to see what needs they have. And we're going to be focusing on a few areas. One is on delivery, whether they need support in delivering products or in services. The other is on whether they are comfortable with their capacity for e-commerce and online purchases. And we are going to, and so we're going to try and keep it to 4 questions. And we also, there hasn't been a lot of uptake on Shop Local North Perth. We want to see if they had concerns over that. And so yeah, we're going to be trying to do some research with our businesses to see how we can support them. So that's kind of a starting point. There were some really good initiatives over the holidays and more grassroots initiatives, people doing videos and working in small groups of businesses, really trying to get the word out, which is excellent, because I think that's really key. I have had comments from businesses thanking us for trying so hard to communicate and get information out about the different programs and trying to help small business. So that was encouraging that they're seeing it. but also what more can we do to help support our businesses? So just, I think, any comment from any of you business leaders on how any concern areas or areas that you think like that have been brought to you that you'd like us to act on?
Before I open it up, Kim, thank you. Those are very good comments. I know that the shop local was a big hit over the holidays. I know I did hear Trevor supporting on the radio a few times. The chamber bucks, and I got to tread lightly here because as Mayor Todd and I discussed, not everyone participates in the chamber bucks, but do we know roughly how many dollars were purchased over the holidays to be spent within the municipality, roughly?
I know that Sharon did state that, and I can't remember. I know that right now there's $100,000 out in the community circulating, and she did have that on a recent. I know she did say it in a recent poster, and she did mention it. But I know that there is quite a lot of funds circulating right now, so I think people are recognizing that, and they have asked for us to promote that, about the shop local dollars, and how easy, like it is easy for new businesses to join. It's not a difficult process for them to participate, and to encourage businesses if they have anniversaries or appreciation for employees or, you know, what have you, to shop local, to use the shop local dollars, but also to let businesses know that it's a way for them to promote and get people into their stores to use those bucks as well. So
Perfect. Thanks. I'm sure I heard this morning on the radio too, Tammy from Diana Sweets. There's a pasta company from Kitchener that has forwarded her to cater to online frontline people this Friday, which is good. Really supporting. So everyone's trying to do the best they can, yeah, which is good. So, okay, we'll open it up. I'll start with Andrew. Do you have anything to add to this conversation?
Sure. Thanks, Doug. I can't necessarily comment on the health of the retail or specifically the retail marketplace as part of manufacturing and as, I guess, part of the food chain. We were recognized very early on as an essential service and recognized as a very crucial service as part of the food chain. So our business has continued on relatively unscathed. We have been virtually sitting on the edge of our chair for 10 months, just hoping that the supply chain holds. It's a very fragile chain with many links along it that if any one part of that does come loose, it gets ugly quick. The whole chain up and down backs up and causes major challenges. But so far the impacts have been relatively small and quickly recovered from, which is good. It has not been unaffected. There's certainly been impacts, but knock on wood, so far so good.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Becca, would you like to chime in?
I don't really have a lot to say in terms of my sector per se. It would be interesting to know which types of businesses are suffering the most in North Perth, though, and how we can help those businesses out.
Great, thank you. Trevor, any comments?
Before Christmas and basically November, December, we found that we have a retail space also in our building. They were support a lot of local people, and kind of from about 20 minutes around, basically Palmerston, Hairston, were really supporting our business. We also found that our building, when it was open, we were taking great measures to try to limit the numbers. If we were yellow, we were acting as if we were in orange, and if we were orange, we were acting as if we were in red. just to keep our numbers down in our building. And we found that it was the community was very supportive, and I think we're in a very strong community as far as helping each other. Right now we're shut down, so until we can get open again, we can't really do anything. But I think the community will come back and support each other. I know there's a lot of businesses in town that are really suffering though, in speaking to other business owners and that. And if we don't get this opened up before too long, there's going to be a lot of people in big trouble.
Thanks, Trevor.
I mean, I know you can't name those specific businesses, but can you maybe like name types of businesses, whether you're talking, I know gyms, it's difficult, or restaurants, or personal services, like that might be helpful to know.
Well, definitely the gyms are struggling, and I guess when it's kind of hard when you own a gym, you're kind of trying to be bipartisan on this a little bit, but they my honest opinion on that is nobody's really ever proven that, other than one spin class in Kitchener that had a big outbreak, on how that affects what we're doing. And the same in some of the small businesses. And I think Mayor Kasenberg there actually spoke about it. I read it on a Facebook memo the other day, and he's exactly right. Small businesses aren't causing what we're doing, and we're shut down because of that. But the small businesses, I think, that are getting affected, definitely the restaurants are in trouble. If this keeps prolonging on, like, you can only do takeout for so long. I know a lot of, like, we try to support in our staff here, we try to support once or twice a week. When we were open, we were supporting a restaurant where we would buy meals and bring them in here to help support them. You can only do that for so long as a business, right? And I would think your retail downtown is definitely, like, doing online isn't a lot of fun. Like right here, we would average probably 10 to 12 people a day. Right now, we average 1 on curbside.
Okay.
And that's assuming that some of those retail spots even have websites that you can do that curbside. Like, I know I was looking for winter boots over the like the last couple of weeks, and a lot of our shoe stores don't have websites to look at.
Yes. Thanks for the comments. And like Trevor says, there were so many. There was just, you can't really single them out. There were so many businesses in North Perth and all over Perth County that are suffering, and it's not if, it's when the plug will be pulled, but it is the big box stores. And I'm not sure Todd's been in on any calls, but I heard again that they are really enforcing controlled attendance at the big box stores. Can you chime in on that, Todd? Nope. Doesn't look like it, but yeah, it is. It's the big box stores. They're doing fine. It's the small ones that are going to suffer. So, thank you, three. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this conversation on the panel?
Can you hear me now or no?
Yep, we can. Yes.
Okay, so certainly it does appear that there has been a little bit of hint from the province that enforcement measures with regards to businesses should focus on the larger ones who perhaps, as I've said before, disproportionately benefit from the pandemic. I will comment that at least those who've reached out to me are who you'd expect. They are businesses that are either in food services and food provision, but not groceries. They are in personal services that would include hair cutting and tattoo and that sort of thing. These are the businesses, and of course, gyms and fitness centers. I have heard actually from a couple of them. So, I mean, we know that there's a very real struggle there. I want Trevor to know, I haven't shared it with him, but he might be interested in knowing that I did go to bat with the public health unit about gyms. in particular, asking for the provision of evidence that there had been in contact traces suggestions that gyms were part of the problem. And I do have that data, Trevor, so if you're interested, I can send it to you.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep.
Anyone else like to speak? Go ahead, Leanne.
Thank you, Doug. The other thing that I wanted to raise your attention about is that that's our service organizations, our charities in our community. You know, you can think of the Legion, the Little Agricultural Society, the Atwood Lions, the Kinsmen. None of these organizations are able to do fundraising like they have in the past. And they aren't allowed to bring people together, of course, because we're in a stay-at-home order, to do the types of fundraising that they're accustomed to. Many of these organizations own buildings, okay? They own facilities that need to be maintained. They have to do snow removal. There's insurance. There's all these costs that it takes to run an organization. And I know of a few that that much longer without the ability to raise funds will be of great, a grave circumstance to them to continue to survive. And the other problem to this is that they can't access any kind of government funding or grants because it's only for business. It's not for, you know, service organizations. So I'm very concerned about those community groups who have done significant work in our community to support us in many, many ways. And are they going to be able to survive much longer is of grave concern. So I wanted to put that out there. I know that it's not necessarily economic development, but they contribute to economic development to many degrees. They host events, they bring business into town, and unfortunately, they are gravely going to be impacted. And perhaps it's not a bad idea to reach out to some of those organizations to say, you know, what status are you? How are you doing? Are you able to cope? Just to see, you know, how they're going to be making out through this, because I'm very concerned about that as well. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Leanne. Anyone else?
Just one comment I want to make about the service organizations is that I sit on the steering committee for United Way for Huron and Perth, and I don't have the specifics with me right now, but I know that they were gathering funds and had gathered quite a significant amount of donations, partially to be used in that for that exact purpose, for our service organizations, for nonprofits, because they were definitely suffering. And I do have a meeting tomorrow for that, so I can, you know, inquire about more details on that, what the status of that is, and if they can share information on how the service organizations and maybe what the uptake has been in North Perth, if they have been reaching out, or I'll check on the status of that.
Thanks, Kim. That'd be great. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, like a few bullet points ago, if there is anything that you didn't want to say online here, if you know any impacts or need help, just send Kim an email, reach out. If we don't know, we can't help out, but don't kid ourselves. It's North Perth right now is a hot spot, as we all know, and it's not going to happen overnight. I'm sure. I know Mayor Todd, myself, and probably Leanne, we're fielding, and Chris, and probably Kim, we're fielding many calls, and they say, "What are you doing about this?" Well, it's not what we can do; it's what you can do, and it is not going to go away right overnight. And I think the number is. The thresh is it has to get under 1,000 a day, and we are way above that. But still, this committee can do whatever they can to help and support these businesses. But until we get this under control, it doesn't look good. But anyway, any other comments? Andrew?
Yeah, sorry, Doug. Just I don't know whether it's an open question or whether it can be answered or not, but at the end of the day, with the reality of this, it all comes down to budgetary dollars, and I'm not sure whether what the process looks like for a business who is put into lockdown and has rent and wages and et cetera, insurance to pay. I don't know what the process looks like, whether they're expectation to work through their bank and then potentially get to some government funding. But it all comes down to dollars available. And for the service organizations, I don't know where the money comes from. I don't know what the pipeline is looking ahead, but we're going to have to deal with some unfortunate realities that there's not going to be enough public funds available to keep some of these organizations and or businesses open. It's a grim reality.
You're correct, Andrew. Thank you. Anyone else like to comment? Okay, saying none, we will move on to bullet number 9. So item 9 sent to you were the scheduled meetings for 2021, unless a special meeting needs to be called by the chair. Does anyone have any concerns with any of these dates? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve.
I have.
Go ahead, Becca.
September 15th, I for sure cannot make.
Okay, no problems. Just send your regrets, and we will be fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like a motion to approve the 2021 NPEDAC meeting schedule. Moved by Andrew, second by Becca. All in favor? And that is carried. We are now at item number 10, where our meeting will be adjourned. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to adjourn this meeting at 4:44 p.m. to meet again Wednesday, March 17th at 3:30 p.m. unless a special meeting will be called. Moved by Becca, second by. I don't see anyone. I lost my screen. Okay, second by Andrew. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you so much for making the time to meet this afternoon. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone.